Hello, lovely people. Thank you for joining me. I just really had to give my 2 cents on what was happening here with Will Smith and Chris Rock. And the reason the reason I'm doing this is because I I just wanted to give my sort of my side, my feelings on this because it is a very controversial one. And I know Will Smith is getting a lot of flack. He is getting heavily criticized for his behavior. And I just wanted to say quickly that I agree with what everyone is saying. I consider myself to be a very peaceful person. I don't believe in violence. And so yeah, I might sound like a hypocrite later on, but I um I agree that, violence and uh, this physical behavior is not the way to go to resolve an issue. Um, but saying that, this is where it gets controversial. Saying that, a, s- a small part of me, okay, maybe not a small part of me, maybe quite a big part of me, actually kind of did a woohoo when he did that to Chris, when he slapped him across the face. And I'll tell you why. Now, if you don't know the reason why it happened, it was because Jada Pinkett Smith has alopecia. And I didn't even know this. I was only made aware of this when this incident happened. And so in a way, it's also kind of a good thing because I think if nothing had happened, if it was just a little silly G.I. Jane joke that Chris had said, it wouldn't have blown up the way it had, and it wouldn't have made people aware that even celebrities also have these conditions. But anyway, I digress. So Jada has alopecia, and which is the reason why she, wears her hair that way. Or she shaves her head, I think. And and Chris Rock made a joke saying something about, hope to see you in the next G.I. Jane movie or something like that. And she didn't take very kindly to it. And that's when uh, Will, Im- well, Will immediately laughed when he heard that. And then he saw that his wife was distressed. And then he got up and, yeah, I think the rest is history, right? We all know what happened there. So the reason why I was happy, a big part of me was happy and felt like Chris deserved it. I don't suffer from alopecia, but I do suffer from trichotillomania. They're not the same thing, but I can imagine that the feeling you get from having either one of these conditions is probably the same. Our attitude towards our hair, our scalp, our self image, the way we look and feel, I feel we might have a lot in common. So, uh, in a way, I really felt for Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm going to tell you why it hit so close to my heart, this incident. When I was young, first started exhibiting symptoms, I was pulling out my hair little by little, and just at first it wasn't that bad, but it was still noticeable. I had like a couple of bald spots on my head, and my mother, my mother's another story, but her let's just say her reaction to this happening was like, was not exactly the most supportive and most loving. It She ridiculed me, she made fun of me, and I remember I'll never forget this. I remember once she also had this very annoying habit of telling everybody that I had this. which was it was such an embarrassing thing, because especially when you're a 13-year-old girl and your image is sort of like everything at that time in your life, and your mother's just going around and telling everyone that you're going bald. It can really, I don't know, it was so embarrassing. It was not embarrassing, it was humiliation. It was very, very humiliating. And I will never forget this one time we went to go and see one of my aunts in her shop. She owned a pharmacy, and she went in, and there were like people walking about. There were some customers there as well, but my mom was talking to my aunt over the counter, and and telling her in front of everyone that I had this issue with my hair. My hair was falling out. And then my mom started calling me Kojak. Now, Kojak was a little bit before my time, but I kind of still knew who he was. I don't. It's a TV show, right? I think it's a TV show, and I never really watched it, but I kind of knew that the main character was bald. So I did get the reference. I remember laughing. I remember laughing, and I remember trying to hide my embarrassment. I remember saying, "Can you believe it?" I was actually mocking myself. I said Sinead O'Connor, because Sinead O'Connor also shaved her head. So I was like, Sinead. But the thing is, I wasn't genuinely seeing it as a joke. I did it to mask my incredible humiliation and embarrassment at what my mother was doing and saying. It was horrible. It was the most horrible feeling. I mean, if it's one thing your classmates and your peers uh, mocking you and bullying you and making fun of you, but when your own mother does it to you, it breaks your heart. It is the most horrible feeling in the world. And that is why I understand how Jada must have felt at that point when she was being called G.I. Jane. It was a horrible feeling, and honestly, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I really wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's a terrible feeling. And yeah, a lot of people might not understand what I'm saying. There's probably going to be a lot of cynical people out there like, oh, but you shouldn't have resorted to violence. But you know what? I understand how Jada felt. And that's why when Will went up there and smacked the shit out of Chris Rock, I was kind of living vicariously through them and imagining someone doing that to my mom as well. I know it's terrible to think of your mom that way, but honestly, it just felt good, vicariously good watching it. It was kind of cathartic, I won't lie. And yeah, so that's just my opinion, but I know I'm sounding like a hypocrite here, but like I know I know violence is not the way to go, and I wouldn't advise and tell anyone to resort to violence in any way like that. But I won't lie, it felt good watching that. It felt good.